feeling so small. Watch the clock ticking off the wall. But tonight I'm letting it go. Spend my coin for sure. I'm gonna be myself, or I could be someone else. No one's stopping me now. I'm gonna skip my breaks, I'm gonna make mistakes. I just wanna feel alive. It's just what I do when I'm out, so try not to hold me down. Feel alive when I'm in this town. Look at those beautiful stars. I wanna drive a faster car. Nothing can break me, no, no, nothing can break me. Try not to hold me down. Feel alive when I'm in this town. Look at those beautiful stars. I wanna take a trip to Mars. Nothing can break me, no, no, nothing can break me. I wanna drive a faster car. Lay my troubles to rest. Blow the smoke through my cigarette. City lights looking fine, and I know this is my time now. I'm gonna be myself, or I could be someone else. No one's stopping me now. I'm gonna skip my breaks, I'm gonna make mistakes. I just wanna feel alive. It's just what I do when I'm out, so try not to hold me down. Feel alive when I'm in this town. Look at those beautiful stars. I wanna drive a faster car. Nothing can break me, no, no, nothing can break me. Try not to hold me down. Feel alive when I'm in this town. Nothing can break me, no, no, nothing can break me. Look at the beautiful stars. I wanna drive a faster car. I'm gonna be myself, I'm gonna be someone else. I'm gonna be myself, I'm gonna be someone else. I'm gonna skip my breaks, I'm gonna make mistakes. I'm gonna skip my breaks, I'm gonna make mistakes. I'm gonna be myself, I'm gonna be someone else. I'm gonna be myself, I'm gonna be someone else. I'm gonna skip my breaks, I'm gonna make mistakes. I'm gonna skip my breaks, I'm gonna make mistakes. Try not to hold me down. Feel alive when I'm in this town. Stars, I wanna drive a faster car. Nothing can break me, no, no, nothing can break me. Try not to hold me down. Feel alive when I'm in this town. Look at those beautiful stars. I wanna take a trip to Mars. Nothing can break me, no, no, nothing can break me.
Hey everyone, and welcome to another edition of Griot's Garage YouTube Live. I am Nick.
I'm Stevie.
And we are Samless today, but Stevie and I are going to put on a show that should be a pretty educational session, for sure.
Definitely. We've got a lot to talk about.
We have demonstrations as it relates to how to restore headlights with our 2 new ceramic headlight restoration kits powered by Cerakote Ceramics. And then, as you can see, I have a multitude of products in front of me that we are going to utilize to essentially get you through an exterior glass polishing and sealant process that will best prepare you for what we're mainly focused on today, which is improved visibility during these dark, wet winter conditions.
Absolutely. Did we already feature this cart? I just realized I don't think we've actually gone in depth on the cart you're standing behind there.
No, but I was kind of waiting for somebody to ask. We are, but that's cool. I mean, hey, we'll start the party off early. Stevie wants us to call out one of our newest products, the Ultimate Detailing Cart. This is a product that we designed with one of our partners who also helped us bring the lightweight detailing cart to market. And one of the coolest features about it is this, how you can customize this cart and how just heavy duty and high quality it is. So just from top to bottom, an excellent cart. 4-inch heavy duty casters, sealed ball bearings, which you're not going to find on any competitive cart. So extremely smooth rolling over a multitude of surfaces. You can buy the cart itself, or you can buy the actual trash and pad and towel bins that hang on the side of it. And then really the most unique feature is what we designed, which is the top tray that features 4, I'm not going to be able to remove it, unfortunately, we might have to grab one. 4 cavities for all different sizes of Griot's Garage products, as you can see, from 16 ounce all the way up to 35 ounce. Varying depths, but they're all very stable as you roll the cart around. Some trays for brushes, swabs, all sorts of other pieces. And then a really cool feature is the adjustable orbital hangers on the back. It comes with 2 different hangers, so you can choke them up for 2 small format tools or remove the liner and hang your big high format tools. So a lot of adaptability out of the box. And then on the front, Griot's Garage logo is actually a coated steel that acts as a magnet for any detailing light. So
Absolutely.
And then big deep tubs, 3-inch deep tubs, so you can fit anything else.
Yeah, those are great for used pads and towels as you're working. It also has a little recess there at the back that you can set your phone into. Texting somebody, whatever you're doing, you can prop your phone up, listening to music, whatever it be.
Hey guys, it does look like we're having a bit of a technical challenge here. We have 2 live streams going on, unfortunately, so we might have to resolve that. If you're hanging on with us, I'd go back to check our YouTube channel. If you're seeing us, great. Looks like, okay, we're all good.
2 times the giveaways.
2 times the giveaways, yeah. Well, we're happy that everybody's joining us. Again, we got a ton of questions and live demos that we're going to do. But again, the focus is entirely visibility. Mm-hmm. So let's start with like the most basic concept, which is cleaning. You want to talk about just proper interior window cleaning?
Absolutely. So first off, we actually recommend when you're cleaning glass, you'd want to pick either horizontal or vertical passes for the exterior and work perpendicular to that on the interior. That way, if you do end up maybe missing a spot or leaving streaks, you know which side of the glass they're on, and that way you're not chasing your tail, wiping the same section over and over before realizing it's the other side of the glass. That can be beneficial. We also have a window cleaner set, which I believe I have here somewhere, that has a 2-foot handle there with a iron-shaped head. This is extremely beneficial for getting down into tight corners down at the base of the windshield, especially if you have just a tight angle to get into. Sometimes you can't get your hand all the way in there. This also will make the cleaning process a lot easier, so you're not bending upside down trying to get your hand in there. You can just use this tool. You do have a plush bonnet and a smooth bonnet, tight weave bonnet that comes with this. Typically what I would recommend is having an extra head already dressed with the opposite towel or bonnet, sorry, and have that ready to go. That way you can just pop the head off, switch to the dry, and then dry the surface. That'll ensure that you're not leaving streaks. Another tip for cleaning interior glass is I personally prefer to spray the cleaner onto the towel or tool that I'm using outside of the vehicle. That way you don't have to worry about any sort of overspray at all. Of course, you can just quickly and easily wipe it up after, but I like to make things as easy as possible.
Yeah, I mean, you jumped right in. I was gonna
sorry.
talk about how much I actually hate cleaning glass. I think that was like one of the most common, comments and or questions was just like, oh gosh, please, like, relieve me, give me something to tell me how to make it easier. And as you can see from Stevie's explanation, there's a lot that goes into perfect glass, right? And part of it is not only just the tools and techniques that you're suggesting, but also the chemicals, the towels, and your conditions, right? I think the biggest mistake a lot of people do is they get frustrated when they're cleaning glass in heat or direct sunlight, and you've got these light, generally alcohol-based glass cleaners that flash very fast and also add to streaking. So, but proper cleaning is the first step to visibility, right? So we, whether it be a newer car that has VOCs that are off-gassing out of the new vinyl material, and also any dressing that you may be putting on it that the sun drives out of it, that will create a film. And then generally over time, just any air that's circulating, deposits on the interior windshield.
Also moisture. If you have moisture in the vehicle and it's condensating on the inside of the glass, sometimes you take a towel and wipe it down real quick so you can see to drive. So we have dusting bags that'll help prevent that. It's just glass is tricky.
Yeah, and again, I think when I used to detail, I do a lot of it outside in people's driveways, and the biggest thing we'd fight was the weather, right? So if you didn't do glass initially, which was kind of hard as it related to process, by the time you were finishing up the detail and doing glass, all of a sudden the glass had temperature and it was just maddening. So one other really important thing to point out, our window cleaner was one of the first formulas that we sold at Griot's Garage. It was one of my grandfather's original formulas that he utilized in his lens business in the 70s and 80s that my dad pilfered. And it's a little less aggressive because of good old California. But one of the things that is still great about it is ammonia-free. Likewise, the same features present or true of the foaming glass cleaner, ammonia-free, which makes them safe on tint. So really important if you have tinted windows, you can use either of our window cleaners, but that is really like one of the key aspects is that your chemical be free of ammonia. Windex, super effective glass cleaner, definitely can be harmful to not only you as a human being inhaling atomized ammonia when you're in a small space such as your car, but also to some of your sensitive interior materials such as leather, vinyl, if it does drip down and hit those dashes, but it'll also degrade and eat tint. So a couple important points about cleaning in particular.
Another thing is it does have that blue dye in it, which can dye your tint over time.
Yeah.
So usually you'd want to steer for something that's particularly not fragranced, or at least not a high fragrance level, and then dye-free.
So chemicals being one thing, temperature, controlling your conditions another. Stevie mentioned it, the kind of deliberate cleaning motions, interior and exterior, so that if you do come back with a light, you can determine which area you messed up on.
Yep.
And then I think another thing is use glass cleaner sparingly, right? You don't need to oversaturate it, because then what you'll find is that you're going to have a harder time drying, and because it's fast flashing, it'll dry up, creating those streaks. But too little, obviously you're going to have tension and you're going to fumble a towel through your hand. So as one nice aspect of our PFM glass weave drying towels, or dual weave glass drying towels, is that they are about hand size, so you shouldn't have a towel that rolls over in your hand. So pretty convenient. little tool?
So you do have two options. So these towels are designed, they're dual weave towels. So you have the PFM weave on one side and then a tight, flat microfiber weave on the other. So you are able to use these starting with the PFM to remove any dirt, grime, anything like that, and then finish with the completely smooth side to ensure that you're not leaving streaks. My personal favorite method is to use two towels, and so this one will get saturated with the product. Of course, if it gets too dirty, then I'll change it out and kind of cycle through, so then that one would go. My drying towel would be my wet towel, and then I'd have another dry towel. But I personally prefer just to let this towel get soaked with the cleaner, wipe the surface down, come back quickly with a dry towel, and dry the surface.
Yeah, a good microfiber is pretty critical because if you have one that lints a lot, you're going to see that lint. It's going to, those like lower pile towels are going to, as we even purport on the back of ours, they're going to create a little bit more surface tension. So if you have a cheap microfiber you get from the big warehouse store, you have the potential for linting and then also just high surface tension and just an unpleasant process, let alone the excess material. But we did have a question come in, and I've seen it a couple times in the chat about newspaper. So people ask a lot, or people swear by newspaper. Now, back in the day, that used to be a material that could be utilized. However, today, newspaper is a lot different than older newsprint. And so the glues and the inks that they're using are actually not suitable for window cleaning use. Now, could you use a paper towel? Potentially, but same issue. You run into glues, you run into linting, and you're just not going to get as great of a result as a purpose-built microfiber. So those are things that can contribute to frustration, and definitely that antiquated use of old school newspaper doesn't really apply to modern day newspapers. So throw that out. Recycle it. Whatever you want to do. I don't care. All right, we got a couple questions about our headlight restoration kit. Let me kind of summarize the rest of what we're going to do with this, because we'll come back to it, and then we're going to restore some headlights in front of you all. So if you have questions about our headlight restoration kits specifically, we're hopefully going to address them in this demonstration. But we'll talk about what we're going to do to the R32. This is a Mark IV R32. The Griot twins are already commenting on it. They're hot right now. And yes, Richard might be hoarding them, but I don't blame him because I love these cars. But yeah, you have a silver one. If you own a red one or a black one, you probably want to email Richard or our customer service, especially if it's sub 20,000 miles. He will pay you for that. Okay, so with the glass cleaners addressed, obviously those are going to be applicable to interior glass in particular, and then obviously you can use them for your exterior glass if you're not going to wash your whole car, just to get your glass clean. We are going to demonstrate the correct process for polishing your exterior glass and then following it with glass sealant. This will make sure that water repels from the glass, makes them stay clean longer, similar to a ceramic self-cleaning concept. But in particular on your windshield, you're going to get an effect where water simply flies off and minimizes your need for wipers, ideally increasing visibility in these winter months. We're going to demonstrate the polishing with both the G8 and the G9 random orbitals, so how you can utilize both tools either individually or to complement each other to make your process super effective. Our glass polishing pads, 3-inch and 6-inch, and then our Interflex pads, which we have recently redesigned with a much higher density foam. They're a big upgrade over our initial Interflex pads if you had ever used those. Those come in 3, 5, and 6-inch, and they're great for the long throw tools to add a little bit of conformability, but they're awesome for glass polishing because these rayon pads they don't have any give. They don't have any conformability. So if you're running over rounded glass or at all, just having a little bit of cushion, it's not minimizing the effectiveness of that pad because it is so abrasive. It's just actually allowing you a little bit of dampening, a little bit more enjoyable experience.
Yep, helps reduce the vibration that you feel since there is that foam between the stiff pad and the backing plate.
And then one other aspect of glass polishing in particular is your glass is surrounded by paint and usually generally some sensitive rubber and trim. and we are going to show you proper taping techniques with our new washi masking tape. So we will get to talk a little bit about this. These just came in stock. It's a new product for us at Griot's Garage. Really low adhesive content so as not to leave behind a lot of adhesive residue, and great for protecting your sensitive trim and paint.
And it's not pink, it's light red.
It is not pink. No, Jeff Brown would like to know. That's made in Japan. So we're going to start by showing you a headlight restoration process, and we'll continue to just take your questions as they come. Sorry, Stevie.
No, you're fine.
All right, so let's see what we've got in the questions.
Before, I've got a question here for you.
Yeah.
We can bring up here. If you can see that.
Yeah, that's okay. So we kind of Dan past 12 asks, would you be able to harness the magic of newsprint and cleaning glass? I think we addressed that already. That must have been one of the ones I saw. And do the ceramic headlight kits dissolve the UV coating from the headlight lens, then protect again with the ceramic wipe? You want to kind of we'll needle that one because we'll address it and we'll display it really quickly here. So
yeah, we'll kind of ease into it because the process depends on how intact the current coating is, whether it's completely oxidized and failing and coming off, or whether some of it's still intact. And that actually is one of the aspects that you'll look at in order to determine whether you're best suited to do the moderate restoration kit or the severe. But oftentimes when that coating starts to yellow and break down, it will come off fairly easily. So we have two options. If it's just barely oxidized and starting to yellow, you can use the moderate, can't talk right now, sorry. The moderate headlight restoration kit, which has oxidation remover wipes, which will actually help remove that oxidized layer. Do we want to go into display?
Yeah, so I think short answer is the aspect that essentially melts away some of the dead coating that you referred to is going to be this one of the components of the moderate kit. Now, depending on how severely failed the coating is, you may want to follow with subsequent steps. But we're gonna show you. I'm gonna bring this lens up, and I think Matt did actually take some closer photos of the condition of this lens. But this is essentially just a junkyard headlight that we pulled out. And one of the things that you'll notice, and what we ask you to look for as it relates to assessing a headlight, is the consistency of the coating failure. Stevie kind of referenced that, and that is how you would essentially establish whether or not you should probably opt for the sanding step. I'm going to go out on a limb and say, while the sanding step is more work, it is almost certainly guaranteed to create a more substantial result if you have any doubt about whether or not your coating is completely failed or not. However, the moderate kit is really great for a newer vehicle that is just showing signs of yellowing and or a consistent fogging through the lens. So this lens, once again, I will show everybody. I'm going to get up as close as I can to the, we have a consistently fogged lens here. Matt, we're going to see. So we've got really, as I play with the light, you'll see just, can you imagine how little light you're actually getting out of that lens? And what we're looking for determining the failure of the coating is we're looking for edges or lines, and you'll really see it. It'll almost look like if you've ever seen like kind of paint peel, that it is essentially representing a peeling paint, and it kind of looks like it's scaly, and it will be pretty consistent throughout the course of a lens if you actually had, grave lens failure. So that is what that's much the biggest determining factor in saying, okay, my coating is severely failed. But a consistent fogginess throughout, we're going to try the moderate kit, and we're going to show you how easy it is to do and how stunning the results are. So again, our headlight restoration kit powered by Cerakote Ceramics. And obviously, you're restoring your headlights for two reasons. One, aesthetics. Yeah. Simply, right? That has nothing to do with safety. It just means your car looks like crap because your headlights are all foggy and the rest of it might be perfectly shiny. The next would be visibility, light output. Again, as you saw, at one point, this lens was as clear as the sides, which have not been exposed to any UV. And you're going to lose a lot of light output, regardless of what kind of bulb you put in there. You probably shouldn't just be continuing to up the output of your bulb if you can't address the quality of the lens.
Yeah. I think it's important to note, depending on the severity of the oxidation of the coating and how bad the headlights are, you could actually improve the visibility by 142%, which is a massive improvement. And if you can imagine, if you're having trouble seeing at night with your headlights, this is going to make it so much better and safer for you.
Andrew Burst is asking, is that a headlight from Nissan Sentra? I have no idea. When we were developing this kit along with Cerakote, we must have taken 40 headlights out of the junkyard. I mean, an enormous amount. And these aren't cheap. I mean, each one costs 40 to 50 bucks a pop. So we were spending a lot of money in this development. So one thing to note, there's no car attached to this. So I couldn't tell you what car it actually came from. But if you were to actually do this on your car, there's 2 steps that we'd recommend first. 1, wash the car or clean the headlight lens thoroughly. So we want to make sure that it's free of any above surface contaminants, any excess surface dirt. So a wash will do well. However, with these particular coatings that we're going to apply, they are moisture cure. So if they are exposed to any water prematurely, they will create streaks and it will prevent it from adhering properly. So if you do wash your car as a way to clean your headlights, be sure that that car is completely dry and that your lens and the rest of the car is cool to the touch. You really don't want to risk any water interfering with this process. Otherwise, you're going to have to sand that coating off and start over.
Yep. And the best practice would be to use a wash that does not contain wax or any protection of any sort. And then also a good tip to make sure that it's completely dry is either let it set for 12 to 24 hours and ensure that all of the cracks and crevices have completely dried from all the water that was sitting and hiding in there. Or you can use an air tool such as our Airstream drying gun to blow those cracks out.
All right, and just as a matter of process, I'm just going to do this really quickly to show. But if this were also on the car, we would recommend taping with a masking tape so that when you're using the oxidation remover wipe, which is a solvent and an aggressive little cloth here meant to scrape the surface of the dead coating, you're not running that into the paint. Will it do any damage if it runs into the paint, just inadvertently? No. But you just run the risk of introducing some damage. And if you're using our severe kit and you're introducing sandpaper, it's best to have the buffer zone of that masking tape. Likewise, when you're applying the coating, if you were to run over the edge and run into a piece of trim or paint, you'd have to remove that coating immediately and not allow it to dry. Otherwise, you could be causing some issues. So I'm going to stop talking and just start demonstrating. If you see any questions come in, let us know. But important thing, the moderate kit comes with 2 oxidation remover wipes, 1 for each headlight lens, and 2 ceramic headlight coating wipes, and a pair of nitrile gloves. That's all that comes in the moderate kit, and you'll see that's all you need with this current lens condition. It's really important to wear the gloves. The solvent's not very kind to skin. It's not going to really harm you, but just wear the gloves. And then same with the ceramic headlight coating. It is an actual ceramic coating. Wear the gloves.
Real quick, Derek's Detailing asked if you could use glass polishing pads on headlights to remove oxidation in a pinch. If they are glass headlights, that could work in a pinch. If you're working on plastic headlights, you'd want to use like an orbital with an orange foam pad or a white foam pad. However, that's just going to be a quick fix for moderate oxidation, and it's not going to prevent that from coming back. So I would actually recommend investing in one of these kits, because not only is it going to be a lot easier way to address that, but it's also going to be a lifetime protecting option, as opposed to even if you were to put a wax on, it would be a year to a couple years max.
All right. Yeah, no, that's great. That's again, you can definitely do some curing with your G8, your G9, and some polishing on one of these lenses. However, you're just essentially staving off oxidation, or you're removing current oxidation. You're not staving off future oxidation. So that's where the coating comes into play. All right. One really important thing, and I will reiterate this: there's 2 wipes. You have 2 headlights, 1 wipe per headlight. We've got a lot of people that are already using the kit, trying to make it stretch over multiple lenses, and what happens is by the time you've gotten to the next lens, some of the solvent has started to dry and it becomes tacky, creates streaks and highs and lows. That is not the experience you'll normally have. Just stick with one wipe per headlight. This is a $20 kit to save a pair of headlights. That's a great deal. So just stay focused that way. And as you'll see, the oxidation remover wipes, you're not really going to have a choice to stretch these out. They get pretty saturated. So once again, I have cleaned this lens. It is dry. I've taped it off. This is simply symbolic. If you were going to do this on the car, you'd want to tape all the adjacent surfaces as a matter of caution. And then you'll see how quickly this process happens. So opening the oxidation remover wipe, comes out folded into quadrants. And you can see it's got a little bit of texture to it, or maybe you can't see, but it's got a little bit of texture to it, almost like a waffle weave towel. And I'm just going to go right after this lens and start working it. There's no real correct approach as it relates to up and down or side to side, but just follow the shape of the lens. Some modern headlights really have a lot of shape to them and undulation. And any kind of change in elevation, you might want to focus a little bit more time on, really, really work it. But as you can see right away, that brown is that dead coating, and you're seeing some clarification happen almost immediately on this lens. Now we've got some brown actual rust of the headlight bucket inside the lens. That's not going to cure this. We're not going to cure that, but we're getting some immediate results, which is great.
I do want to mention you're doing it, and I just want to kind of touch on it just to kind of point that out. Oftentimes, if this were on a vehicle, this edge here at the top that's horizontal would actually be up against some type of body panel. It's pretty important if it's a visible section, or even if it's not, to kind of get in that edge. So instead of just doing the front-facing surface, kind of bend it over the tip right there and get the top edge as well. Often that's going to be oxidized too.
All right, so I'm just continuing to work. This is not the biggest headlight on planet Earth. It's pretty thin. So I've got more than enough solvent and also surfaces. You might have noticed this, I didn't mention it, but I flipped to another side. Boom, still pulled off quite a bit. And as I continue to just work my way around the lens, I'm just gonna work the cloth so that the oxidation that I'm picking up in it, I can just continue to pull more and more off and have it saturate into the cloth. You'll see that it's not necessarily dry right now. The solvent doesn't really flash very fast. But I'm going to show you the nature of the lens afterwards, and I think I'm going to stop right there and see what we've got. But as we mentioned, moisture is an important thing to avoid with this particular kit. So we're going to take a clean microfiber utility towel and dry that lens up.
Someone did ask about temperatures to avoid doing this in. So that's a good time to mention that we do actually recommend doing this indoors if possible. Either way, you will want to avoid all moisture. So, definitely don't do it if it's raining outside under a carport. But also keep in mind that high humidity could affect it. There's something else.
Yeah, some of you are going to have to do this outside, right? If you don't have a garage, but that is just important. If it's going to rain within an hour of you doing this, you're going to screw up your headlights. So you got to really make sure that it's a nice dry day. You don't need UV cure. We already mentioned it. It is moisture cured. So this actually, once we apply the coating, it will be dry to the touch within 5 minutes. It'll be cured to take on weather within an hour. You don't want to abrade it for 24 hours, so you aren't going to want to wash your car and rub anything on the lens for up to 24 hours after that application. But it happens pretty quick, so you really only need about a 2-hour window to do the process and allow proper cure. And ideally, as Stevie said, avoid high heat, avoid high humidity, and one and for all, moisture. Do not stay away from moisture. So we've completed the oxidation remover wipe step, and the lens is looking pretty dry. I'd love to see Matt flash the original lens up. Okay, so we've clearly improved it just a little bit. You're definitely starting to see a little bit more clarity, but this haziness is what we're hoping to see afterwards, because we are going to clarify it by applying the coating. So this is really the gratifying step. So we've definitely improved it relative to the initial step. But we're going to apply the coating very simply. Ceramic headlight coating. This is a high solids actual ceramic coating developed by Cerakote Ceramics. It is developed for peak refraction, so to pair with lights projecting through the lens. It's something they had to engineer for this specific application. This has a lifetime guarantee from us. So if you ever have this coating fail on you, we will be able to take care of you. But the presumption, at least that we're making, is a car that has this severe of a failure of a headlight is going to only need one treatment of this restoration and application of the ceramic headlight coating. So for $20 on the moderate kit and $30 for the severe kit, you're getting a pretty awesome solution here.
Absolutely.
So as I mentioned, one wipe per headlight, avoid all moisture. This is dry. That solvent, as I mentioned, it doesn't necessarily just pop immediately, but we did introduce the towel just to wipe up any excess moisture. This is a very saturated cloth, so you aren't going to need to really work this in, and we're really only going to have to cover this once. Mm-hmm. So you'll see this happen very, very quickly. So don't miss it. Don't blink. Here we go.
While you're doing that, we did have someone ask, if it's a new car, why not just use 3-in-1 ceramic wax? I'm not sure if I'm missing a previous comment or if they're referring to the headlight, but if you are referring to a headlight, this is actually going to be more durable than the 3-in-1 ceramic wax. Even on a new headlight, this is going to last a lifetime, as opposed to ceramic 3-in-1 wax typically would give you about a year depending on conditions. So you would need to continue to reapply that to protect the coating that's on the light.
All right. Well, I'm quite satisfied with the minimal amount of effort I did to restore this lens. If I'm being extremely critical, I would suggest that we could have easily done the severe ceramic headlight kit to improve this even more. But once again, I'd like you to flash that before and after up for everyone, Matt. But the before and then the after. We've got a pretty darn good looking lens there. And again, this is going to be dry to the touch in less than 5 minutes. So, man, I am really bad at orienting the, here, does that work? Okay. Orienting that to show you how effective and clear that lens has become. So, and I'm like, it's literally like learning a toggle on a drone. This is crazy. So, there you have it. That is the moderate kit. $19.99 for that. And again, you'd use one wipe per headlight, one oxidation wipe per headlight. Do your taping, avoid moisture, let it air dry for 5 minutes, let it cure for an hour before exposing to weather, 24 hours before abrading with something like a car wash or mechanical washing process. All right.
Right before we move on here, we have a very perceptive member of our audience who happened to catch in that photo that foaming surface prep was missing.
Foaming surface prep is missing. Joel Parker.
Should we give him a kit?
Matt, you gave it away too easy.
Yeah, Joel Parker, you are the winner of the missing product little Easter egg. So you can either write us at social@griotsgarage.com. Let us know if you want a headlight restoration kit. That's what I'd love to send you. If not, we'll send you a ceramic speed shine and some plush edgeless towels. So you let us know what you'd like.
Awesome.
Okay, Stevie, we're gonna do one more headlight restoration. Yes. And while Stevie's doing that, it's a little bit longer process, so I'm gonna answer some questions.
Yeah. Real quick, I did see a question. I believe it was from Facebook. A customer was asking, I believe it was, what was the difference between the new kits and the old kit, and whether this would prevent yellowing from coming back. Our previous kit actually featured a acrylic aerosol spray that you would spray on, and it would need UV light for 15 to 30 minutes to cure. This completely eliminates that. It's not a spray product, it's a wipe. As you saw, Nick did it. It was super easy. It's gonna be a lot more efficient and easy, and it lasts a lifetime as opposed to the 2-year on that previous kit.
And to be very clear, the acrylic paints, that is the most common solution on the marketplace. If you walk into an auto parts store, almost all the other solutions are gonna be some acrylic paint. Now, acrylic is easy to use, it's forgiving. However, its lifespan is limited, and the competitive set generally advertises about a year of lifespan. It's not very scratch resistant, and a year is not a permanent solution. We're talking about a permanent solution with this. So we, again, with the help of Cerakote, we have really upped the game there. The other thing about that previous kit is in order to give you enough paint to safely do the ever-expanding headlight sizes that we're seeing on the marketplace, we would have had to charge another $10 for that kit. So we were kind of at a crossroads of, do we literally include a full-size aerosol can of up to 10 ounces of paint, which is totally overkill for most headlights, or do we find another solution? And that's where Cerakote came into play. So the wipes are a much, much easier solution than the acrylic. And there's no, you don't have to account for wind. You don't have to get a UV light or bake it in the sun. It's just curing really quickly.
Yep, just got to keep it dry. So I'm going to go ahead and get into this. You may notice that this side of the light is already quite a bit less yellow. That is because I've already done the prep steps since we demonstrated the oxidation remover on the moderate kit. And then I have also done the first sanding step, which is the 1000 grit. This kit does come with 2000 grit sanding discs and then a 2000 and 3000. And so I'm going to go ahead.
And the contour grip as well, right?
Yes, sorry. And the little Velcro handle contour grip. Can't talk. Hi. So I'm going to go ahead and adhere the right. All right. Anyways, so I'm going to go ahead, wet the surface.
And that is the only other thing you need that's not required in the kit, right?
Yes,
is the actual
water.
Spray bottle with water for the sanding step.
I'm gonna come on the side here.
Okay, so Stevie, one thing to point out when Stevie is sanding, and I'm gonna let her get sanding because she's gonna be doing it for a while. We did the initial step of oxidation removal wipe, did the secondary step of 1000 grit, and as Stevie mentioned, you get 2 of those discs, 1 for each headlight, and then you get a 2000 and 3000. Now, one of the things we've learned in terms of a lot of the wet sanding and refinishing that we're learning about just in general as we improve our skills is that, as you go up to higher grits, it's a finer abrasive. However, you're actually doing more sanding with those finer grits to eliminate the larger scarring or marring or scratches that you're essentially introducing with those larger abrasives. So where you might spend 5 minutes sanding with 1000 or 2 minutes, you would essentially double that with the finer grit and then do that same amount of time for an even finer grit. So it's important that if you don't need the 1000 step, and you may know that from experience, that you still need the 2000 and 3000 to fill the fine scratches. But if you're doing 1000, you need to do 2000 for double the amount of time, and then the same amount of time that you do the 2000, you'll do the 3000. And that makes sure that your lens is as clear as possible, as flat as possible, with as minor of sanding scratches as possible for that ceramic coating to fill.
We have a question that I've been seeing a lot lately in regards to sanding. I'll put that on the screen.
So that's a great question. Ron Shoup asked, does the Severe kit come with sanding discs that can be used on the G8? The sanding discs are extremely high quality foam back discs that actually adhere with Velcro. So you could put them on the G8 and utilize them for sanding. There's no question about that. However, I would caution that that would be for more experienced users, and you're just going to have to, it will accelerate the process of the sanding without a doubt. It will allow you to get more substantially failed headlight coatings off with more ease. There's no question. We have designed this kit to be utilized without power tools, but if you have the G8, go for it. You're just going to want to still follow the same process. Use the 1000 to do the majority of the oxidation removal, and then refine with 2000, refine with 3000. If you're skipping the refinement steps, the coating will not fill the sanding scratches that you're introducing.
Which is a good note to make. After you've completed the kit and applied the ceramic coating, if you're seeing sanding scratches still, usually that's a sign that you did not do enough of the 2000 and 3000 grit steps.
Yeah. Yeah, the 1000 grit, you're going to get some big scratches. Let's see. One other thing to note, this is a good example of a wonky headlight. If you look at the side that Stevie has not touched, there's actually almost a bulb that comes out over. I don't know who's designing this crap. But if you're working your way into seams or over rounded edges, that's where you're going to have to focus a lot. And one thing that you should do to check your work when you're sanding, if you're unsure, is dry the surface off. See if the finish is consistent. If it's consistent, you most likely have done a great job of leveling it all out. However, you'll probably tend to find that on those seams or rounded areas that you'll have to do additional sanding to get that finish consistent. So,
and you can tell that that's needed because it'll be a little more like translucent or clear, or it could even, if you're doing the first 1000 grit step, you could even see yellow remaining.
Somebody's found my Arrowhead water. Yes, it's Arrowhead, not Poland Spring. I think Poland Spring's from the southeast. I drank a lot of that in Georgia.
So you won't see yellow runoff with the 2000 grit step that I'm doing here, but with the 1000 grit step, you will see yellow runoff until you've removed all of that oxidation. So usually another thing to look out for to kind of tell that you're getting close to being done with that step is to see that this runoff turns into, I'm not sure if you can see it, but it's almost like a milky
slurry,
white.
like a milky white slurry, I think is the. And if you've done any refinishing or you've polished clear coat before on a car, you're going to notice, you're going to be familiar with that slurry. Granted, with clear coat paint and large panels, you're going to get a lot more slurry than you are on a little headlight like this. We got a couple questions from Facebook I'm going to answer really quickly. James Reddy asks, he's tried 3 different headlight restoration products. They last about 2 weeks to a month. How can yours do any different than the 3M and Mother's products I've used? Well, again, as we mentioned, most of the products that are on the marketplace, 3M I know has a bunch of varieties of headlight paints, clear coats, so I can't categorically address all of the 3M products. However, the Mother's product does feature an acrylic paint. Again, those are going to be softer. They're not going to be as UV resilient. This is a true high solids SiO2 ceramic coating. If you do the proper preparation steps, and this may be part of the problem with those other kits you bought, they aren't either complete solutions or you're skipping steps to actually remove that oxidation, you're not going to have any adhesion. So be sure you follow the process. Generally, the reality here is you're spending $20 to $30 to solve a problem or improve a condition that may actually be requiring nearly a $300 professional process. So if you've tried numerous headlight kits to no avail, your headlights could just be gone. They could be completely failed beyond saving, or you do need professional help in the form of somebody who's going to do a multitude of sanding steps from 800 to 1,000 to 1,200 to 1,500. You know, sometimes you can do 5 sanding steps on a totally failed headlight coating, but the most important thing is removing that dead lens, because dead coating, if you don't completely remove it and then you just ask something to bond to the top of it, it's going to be gone. So that could be part of your problem.
We have a question based around humidity and water, and I was curious myself, so I'll bring it up for you.
Humberto Roche Garcia, what's the humidity resistance to use it? In Puerto Rico, we have 80 to 85% humidity all year long. Yeah, again, I don't think that unless you're seeing like heavy perspiration, that, you know, if it's a consistent humidity, you know, I will say that I would like to check on that. I don't have the answer on the top of my head. I would suggest that if it's a matter of the environment being stable, that you're going to be okay. However, if you're in that environment indoors, it would be superior. Our fear would just be that you actually have water that builds or clings or prohibits a cure. But Umberto, I'm going to check. So if you would email us at social@griotsgarage.com, I'm going to verify that that isn't just categorically problematic. But because it is, in general, we'd like to avoid that. But I don't know what the upper bound of that limit is. So I would like to confirm that for you.
Does anyone know how long I've been sanding this?
I think you probably are free to move up to a 3,000 step. You've been going for a while.
I sure hope so, because
Yeah.
this arm's going to be real buff if not.
All right. So we're going to look at the consistency of Stevie's sanding and then judge her viciously. But it does look, I'm looking at it from over here, it looks pretty consistent. So I'd say you're doing an okay job. It's almost like you've been trained on that.
Okay job.
Yeah. All right. Man, we've been working a bit. Are you guys learning something? You guys like seeing these demos? I think it's fun for us. Time passes pretty fast when we're doing something like this. But
Yeah, definitely. I saw a good joke from JT earlier, but I don't remember how it went. It was something about a Cadillac. So JT, tell us that joke again.
I also saw a good joke from Neil White. I can't remember it. Ed Drobnik from YouTube asked, what is unique about glass clay? The most important distinction of the glass clay is it is going to be a slightly more dense clay, a little bit harder. The paint cleaning clay is going to be softer. Now, where that comes into play is if you've got any pocking or road rash just pitting in your windshield, or say a crack, a rock chip, any hard edge or divot that you might encounter with that soft paint cleaning clay, it can get trapped in the glass and be nearly impossible to remove. It would be extremely frustrating. So what I would suggest is that the glass cleaning clay, being that it's a little harder, is still going to be tacky enough to remove those above surface contaminants. It doesn't have to conform as much because most glass surfaces are going to be consistent planes as opposed to the curved body panels that you'll encounter with a softer paint cleaning clay. And then you don't risk that clay getting stuck in some of those imperfections that generally tend to accumulate over a car's normal wear and tear lifespan. Hopefully that answered your question. Evergreen Off-Road asks, what's the best way to remove hard water spots from windows? What product to use to protect the glass? We are going to get to that in our next demonstration. So you're on track. Stick around. We're going to show you that as well as address it categorically. That's a creepy comment. We're not going to repeat that. Neil says you've been sanding for over 10 minutes. So,
Jeez.
Yeah, Nick, will this kit work on re-cleared headlights? So, if you've reapplied clear coat, you've essentially replaced the coating that has failed initially. So what I presume, and I'm just making a complete assumption, you can correct me if I'm wrong, that somebody did a full restoration to your headlights doing multiple sanding steps, maybe by machine, I would presume if you got them professionally redone. And then they applied a clear coating either via a spray gun or aerosolized coating. Now, if that coat fails again, you're essentially just restarting the process. And most of these failures we're seeing at like 5 to 7 years. It's pretty much endemic of any Toyota and Lexus on the road. But I would suggest that you could do some of the light sanding to that existing clear and probably remove most of it to put the ceramic coating on top of it. But if you don't have lens or coating failure, it may not be wise to start that.
It would add like some protection, so it's not necessarily a horrible idea, but keep in mind that while this will provide UV protection, it's still adhering, it's kind of like layering waxes, it's adhering to that original coating, which could potentially give out, and therefore you may not get the lifetime protection from this kit.
Oh, there it is. 2 Cadillac drivers got in a wreck, got out of their cars, and then started yelling at each other. Within a few seconds, they were throwing hands. That's a weird way to say punches. I guess you could say things escalated quickly. Nice one, JT.
But
I think we better send you a t-shirt for that. Yeah, Jeff is commenting, of course, being extremely critical of your technique. Suggesting cross hatches. That is a proper way to go. However, we're gonna accomplish the objective here, which is to cure this headlight coating. So, are you lefty?
yeah.
Oh, huh? I didn't know that. I share an office with her. So Chris Henley asked, there seem to be hundreds of headlight restoration method videos with the latest craze using industrial clear coating. How do I know which method is right for my headlights on 3 different cars? 3 different cars, that's going to be a challenging question to address because are they all the same make? Are they all from the same period of time? Are all the headlights exhibiting the consistent failure? I would suggest that clear coating is fine, right? We're essentially applying a clear coat of some sort that just happens to be ceramic based as opposed to acrylic or some other paint type. So with a recoated or re-cleared headlight, you are reapplying something that isn't an over-the-counter solution like what is available here. I would suggest that ours is going to be the most resilient industrial-like type of coating you could apply without a lot of professional experience required. But I can't simply say that this will work on all 3 cars the exact same. But I know that we've tested on a multitude of different lenses from different manufacturers and different ages and been very successful with it. But I wouldn't rule out industrial clear coating. You just may have to do more sanding steps as a result of that. Umberto, I don't know how to tango, so we're not going to tango. For those of you that don't know, scent of a windshield or a window. Scent of a windshield didn't fit the poster, so we had to go scent of a window. But it is a riff on Scent of a Woman, one of the greatest movies with Al Pacino. And I can't remember who's the bad kid. His name's Philip Seymour Hoffman. And then who's the good kid that Al Pacino met? Chris O'Donnell, yeah. And they get in trouble at a northeastern boarding school, and yeah. Shoe 112 wants to ask, what are your favorite cars? What's your favorite car, Stevie? I know you answered this, right? Like what your dream car is?
Yeah, 2002 Ferrari 575M Maranello.
Okay. With the slush box, F1 paddle shifters. Those things are okay. V12 front engine Ferrari. I think you'd have plenty of suitors if you were driving that around. And those are bitchin' cars. I can't really pin it. You're gonna have to, I need a type of car. In my opinion, the most beautiful car ever produced is the Ferrari 250 GTO. It's a race car, 3-liter V12, extremely successful, and just a classic shape. Unfortunately, they are unattainable. They cost nearly $70 million to buy. Not going to own one anytime soon. They're great to look at. But I love SUVs. I love old BMWs. I'm not really into supercars, so I'm going to say probably my Jeep Grand Wagoneer is one of my favorite cars. But yeah, I don't know that I have a specific dream car in mind outside of maybe a Pagani Zonda. That'd be my dream car.
I got a joke I liked.
All right. How many teenagers does it take to change a light bulb? Whatever.
That's a good one.
Okay.
Whatever.
So John Blake says he just checked online and replacement lenses for his F-150 cost from $50 to $350 each. I'm going to try the Severe Kit. John, why don't we provide you with a Severe Kit just so we can kind of prove our point here. These are great solutions to avoid what is the inevitable, right? At some point in time, you keep hacking and sanding and applying this, your lens has failed, right? So these are inexpensive solutions, and ideally, if you get in and save your lens in time, you'll have a great long life out of that lens. But yeah, at some point, and the gentleman who asked through Facebook, you may just be out of luck. You may have waited too long. It may be so severely failed that it's either a professional detail, or professional restoration, which can cost $300 to $600, depending on the size and the amount of time that professional assesses he needs, or again, replacing the actual headlight itself. So you done sanding, Stevie?
Yep.
Real
it's
quick,
completely
John
dry.
Blake, make sure to email us at social@griotsgarage.
Oh yes,
Yes.
please email us at social@griotsgarage.com, and we will provide you with a severe ceramic headlight kit. The expectation is going to be that you're going to show us the results, the before and after, and we're going to display them the next time we do a YouTube Live. True Adonis likes Richard's 1972 Porsche 911S. That is, yes, a family treasure for sure. So hold on. You're getting a little ahead of yourself. You've just finished your sanding.
Yes.
You've ensured that the lens is completely dry.
Yep.
Okay. Now, typically you would do the entire lens, but for the purpose of demonstration, we're just doing half.
Half. Yep. So you get a
And
good
it's the
before and after.
same headlight coating that we have in the moderate kit.
Yep.
Oh.
And even though there's hazing on the surface from the sanding, this is going to completely fill that in and dry to a completely clear and shiny finish, just like the one that Nick just did.
And once again, we have to reiterate that this coating is designed to fill 3,000 grit sanding marks. So if you skip that refinement step, you're going to be in trouble. But
Yes.
dang, that is happening right before our eyes. I'm watching through the monitor.
Yep. And again, slightly overlapping passes, up to 50%, gentle straight line. You do want to let this, you want to apply it as even as possible. If you catch any spots that maybe you didn't quite get good enough or that you want to kind of even it out on, definitely get that right away. But after about, I'd say, a minute, you don't want to come back in and continue wiping because it's just going to smear it once it starts to cure.
Well, that looks pretty dang good. Yeah, I think one of the things we are really excited about with this partnership with Cerakote is, man, right out of the gate, we've got some great solutions and an improvement in terms of application and results. So there's no question that is a drastic improvement. In fact, I mean, it's like you could go resell that thing. JT, you are going to get a t-shirt for that joke. So email us at social@griotsgarage.com. It's been a while since you won something, but your appreciation is, or your participation is always appreciated. Great. Coupon code of the day, True Adonis. If you guys are not part of our email list, we're going to have to find this because we do have a BOGO sale going on. We should have announced that at the very beginning.
Oh, yeah.
We will find the key code for that BOGO sale and we will share it with you all. John's going to type it in the chat coming from Griot's Garage. Basically, you buy a gallon of one of the selected products, you get a free 22 ounce. That is going on for the next few days. So that is the deal of the day, unless you're going to make us laugh and we're going to give you something. I also must ask, if this is your first time here, raise your hand. We're going to make sure that we're going to try and make sure you leave with something. We love giving out first-time viewers, giving out prizes to first-time viewers. And then also, please do us a favor, subscribe, like this video. You can follow us on Instagram and on Facebook, but we do these YouTube Lives every 2 weeks. We love coming out here and doing some education, some hands-on demonstrations. And again, we like giving stuff away. We like being made to laugh and answering your difficult questions.
Yes. So the code is EMJAKR.
And use that at checkout with select gallons. You will get a free 22 ounce along with that gallon purchase. I know that applies to ceramic speed shine, ceramic 3-in-1 wax, heavy duty wheel cleaner, a multitude of products right now. So that is the current deal of the day.
Yes.
All right, so man, we got two good looking headlights, right? We did some work here. So you can see, again, Stevie had probably the more severely oxidized and yellowed lens. She went through the whole sanding process, at least outside of where you demonstrated the 2000, 3000, then applied the ceramic coating. Get some excellent clarity. And once again, it's cured, dried to the touch in 5 minutes, safe for weather after an hour, safe to be abraded, completely car washed 24 hours later. The moderate kit that I demonstrated is $19.99. That severe ceramic kit is $29.99. And we gave that gentleman who said he was going to have to replace his lenses a kit. That is the alternative, right? You can give up and not save your lenses, or you can try these. And they are great, easy to use solutions that don't require power tools. But as one of the users said, if you have a G8, you can adapt these 3-inch sanding discs to that and really expedite your sanding so you're not hacking like you were.
I think it builds character.
Yeah.
$30 and a little bit of elbow grease, and you got great headlights.
All right. So let's take a few more questions, and we are going to show you some. Oh God, you just put up a joke. We're going to show you how to apply glass sealant and do some glass polishing as fast as we can. We just ticked over 5 o'clock. We're having fun. You guys having fun? Hope you guys are having fun. We're still hearing jokes. Okay, great. We've got a couple new guys coming in. Tyler, Eric, welcome. Hopefully you're learning something from us. Diecast Dave sent in a joke saying, before COVID-19, you would cough to cover up a fart. Now you fart to cover up a cough. Or you just press mute on a Zoom call. Yeah, if you're coughing, you gotta mute and stop the video feed. If you're farting while on mute, you better just have a poker face and hope that you don't share an office with anybody. Okay, let's bring out the glass polishing materials and we'll get going on that. All right, so Stevie and I are going to trade off on a couple of these processes. If you missed it at the beginning, we are showing off our new Ultimate Detailing Cart. We've had a couple questions. This is a 2004 Volkswagen R32. It does have the BBS RCs, which are featured on the 337 edition from that same Mark IV. They had a couple different special editions. They had the 25th anniversary. They had the OZ Aristos. And then the GTI is actually, or the R32s actually came with Aristos from the factory. The previous owner put the RCs on it. We're going to put Aristos back on it. This car, as always, is for sale, much like everything else that we get to polish and play with. But we're probably going to hold on to it for a little bit longer. First-time caller, long-time listener, like that. Neil White, we've heard that Tesla joke. You're going to have to do better than that. Jeff Kelly, good to meet you. No cleaner is needed before the last step. Keith Firebird asks about the severe ceramic headlight kit.
What about it?
We don't need to clean
Before the last step?
before the coating.
Just wipe it completely dry.
Yeah, you can definitely flush the surface to be sure that there's no residual slurry. But as you're wiping with a clean microfiber cloth, you're going to pick up most of that as well. So, and by the time you're at the 3000 step, you're not really moving dead coating. You're evening out the sanding scratches. So there's very little slurry or intermediate in there. So, okay, we're going to talk about polishing glass. We really briefly touched on cleaning glass. Raise your hand if you hate cleaning glass. Just me? Okay. It's my least favorite thing to do. I hate it. I generally like write a note to myself in my windshield saying, clean it, idiot. And even so, it usually takes me about 3 days to get to it. So cleaning interior glass, pain in the butt. Usually cleaning exterior glass happens as you wash your car, right? You get some of that done. There's an efficiency there. As it relates to curing, some of the more common conditions with glass, you've got curable things such as watermarks, wiper blade, whether it be rubber deposit, scuffs. Older vehicles tend to have some channels from their wiper blades, going back and forth. Some things that you can't remove, tangible scratches, right? Mm-hmm. I don't know a glass cleaner on the market or glass polish on the market that if you can touch something with your finger in a piece of glass, you cannot remove that.
Yeah, if it catches in your nail, it's most likely not coming out, and definitely not with just polish.
And nobody should be selling that either, because if you can thin out your glass to the point where you remove a tangible scratch, you're creating a danger for yourself. And it does not, I do not know that it exists on the marketplace. If you've got a scratch you can't live with, you're gonna have to replace the glass. Likewise, if you drive on the freeway a lot, you may not have a ton of, say, rock chips, but you may have some pitting from sand, or especially here in the Northwest, you get trucks that drop sand and it gets kind of spun up in the rain and kicked up from water. And you'll see just a consistent pitting. Now, some of that can be minimized with some polish, and some of it may actually be just very small water spots. But there are some incurable aspects of glass. Now, water spots. Some of them will be harder etched, and those must be removed by polishing. But some of them might be a little milder, and they can actually be removed just by simply claying. So, and cleaning. So cleaning, claying, and then polishing would be the progress for your water spots. Now,
yes. The longer that those minerals, so essentially that's a mineral deposit that's been left behind when water evaporates, the longer that that sets on the surface, the more it'll kind of etch. So if you catch it pretty quick, as he said, you can clay it off. The longer it sits, the more it etches, and that'll determine whether, you know, a quick polish will get it out or whether you need to really work at it. So get to it as quick as possible, I guess, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. Okay, so let's set up the conceptual process here. So we've cleaned our interior glass, the weather's changing. We want to do something to help aid our visibility, keep our glass clean as long as possible. We've seen some of those water spots from the summer and fall. You know, as the hot weather, we got rained on, it flashed up, those minerals have deposited. You know, what do we do in correct order to get that glass as awesome as possible and really keep us safe and have as high visibility as possible? So we're going to presume that we have washed this car at the very least. If we haven't washed this car, the car is dirty, and we're going to clean the glass. So we're going to remove all of the excess dirt on the exterior glass by either washing or cleaning separately with a glass cleaner, such as our window cleaner or our foaming glass cleaner. Once we've done that, the next step would be to determine whether or not the glass needs to be decontaminated. Now, one quick way to do that, tangible.
Yep.
Touch the glass. Much like you'd feel the paint, and see if you have any tug, any resistance, to determine whether you have embedded contaminants or not. Mm-hmm. So for that process, you can use a multitude of tools. We talked about this a little earlier, our glass cleaning clay. We mentioned that it is different than our paint cleaning clay and that it is slightly harder, but you would utilize this the same way you would use a paint cleaning clay. You need a lubricant, otherwise it's just incredibly tacky, it'll stick and not go anywhere. So for that lubrication, we're going to use Speed Shine or Brilliant Finish Rinseless Wash diluted at 6:1.
Yes. Speaking of which would you prefer? Because we don't have either of those.
Well, let's grab a Speed Shine. I've got that right there. So we can use glass cleaning clay, or we can use any of our surface prep tools. So Brilliant Finish Synthetic Clay or the Fine Surface Prep Mitt. You could actually use the Fast Surface Prep Mitt either as well. I tend to like the Prep Mitt for things as big as glass, but if you're going down and doing areas like your rearview mirrors or smaller glass panels, you might prefer a smaller tool. It's just a matter of preference. I tend to do a lot of trucks, big flat glass. I like the speed of a bigger tool. So you can do that process, and I will demonstrate it. And then after that, you would you do the next step, which would be rubber prep and taping. You want to talk about those two while I actually do the demonstration?
Absolutely. So you 100% would want to tape trim when you're polishing glass. When you're polishing paint, it's recommended, but maybe not 100% necessary if you're very careful. Still, of course, recommended. But with glass, the pad that you're using is so rough, plus the polish tends to stain the soft rubber around the windshield a little bit easier. So I would 100% recommend taping off the trim. Prior to doing that, you want to make sure that you clean the trim. So using rubber prep, or if you're feeling so inclined, you have it around, maybe you don't have rubber prep, you could use foaming tire cleaner as well. I would probably spray that onto an applicator and then use that. But rubber prep to completely strip any oils or dressing residues from the rubber. That'll get it completely clean and ready for a dressing after you take care of your glass. Plus, it's going to help the tape adhere better because it's adhering directly to bare rubber as opposed to a sticky dressing or whatever may be on the surface.
I actually kind of screwed myself a little bit because I threw that clay right onto the glass without any lubricant. It deposited itself, so I've got to take the clay and get it to pick up its friends at the pool here. But I'm glad we actually did decontaminate that because I didn't feel a lot of tackiness until I actually got going. So I think it's just generally good practice to decontaminate. We generally recommend that. We like to say if your paint is in need of decontamination, just because there are some rare cars that don't need it. However, I almost always clay, whether I'm applying wax, preparing for a polish. I just do it as a matter of process because my cars they go outside and I just want to be sure.
Especially if you're maybe a little bit newer to detailing and you feel it and it kind of feels smooth. I remember back when I first started, detailing, I felt paint and I was like, it doesn't feel that bad. But then after you clay it, the improvement is so significant. If you're new to it and you think, I don't know, it feels pretty smooth, I would still do it just to be safe because you never know. You could be impressed like I was.
Okay, so we're a little out of sequence because we did the taping ahead of time just to demonstrate that. And I'm going to answer this question, Matt, so you can get it off the screen. Sorry. Now I don't see it. So I don't have glass polish or glass pads. What Boss liquid can I use with an orange correcting pad? That's a great question. The abrasives that are within the Boss creams will definitely be effective on some minor defects in glass, in particular if you're talking about water spots that aren't extremely bad. So I mean, you could really apply anything outside of finishing sealant to your glass with an orange pad and get great results as it relates to removing water spots. The only thing you're going to have to be certain to do, and we will talk about this, is clean that very effectively afterwards because the oil water emulsion in the Boss creams is not going to be ideal for A, a glass surface, and B, adhesion of glass sealant if you're trying to get something that will protect your glass afterwards.
Yeah, that's a huge benefit to the fine glass polish. It does have a slightly different abrasive. It uses cerium oxide, which is actually commonly used to polish stones, gemstones, and agates and things like that. But it's going to be very gentle but effective on the glass. It's also a water-based formula, so the cleanup is quite a bit easier as opposed to an oil water emulsion, as Nick had mentioned.
Hey, Pinoy car guy, give us a break, man. No crosshatch pattern sanding and no lubricant claying. I was just, we're on the spot here. We're live. We're doing it live.
Didn't we send you stuff last time?
Yeah, come on, you better be careful. No, just in general,
Canceling your order.
hopefully we can teach you something by our egregious mistakes, right? Let's see, what else? Somebody asked, can you use glass polish on shower doors? Don't answer yes because my wife is watching. I'm gonna answer yes because, man, I have a great story. My dad, when he was developing our early glass polish, did that to our shower doors in our house. And my brother Philip, who's definitely not watching, ran into our shower door full steam. He was about 6 years old, but the glass was so perfectly clear and the door was open, boom, just ran right into it. So, and I will also say, my wife and I, before we were married, were renting an apartment and the owners were, it was a condo, and the owners were extremely neurotic. And I was worried about getting the security deposit back, so I had Sarah polish the glass on the showers because we were living downtown. The water was super hard. Yeah. She absolutely nailed it, and she was just addicted to it. It was a great process for her, and we got the security deposit back. So, yes, it does work on showers really well.
And you never know, if she takes the G8 for the shower doors, maybe she'll start taking care of her car.
Yeah, it's a great segue, right? And one other thing you can do with a shower, you can decontaminate that shower glass. That's where you're going to pull out a lot of those hard minerals that could be contributing to water spots and could be fogging up your glass. So you could actually improve it just by claying. So we've done the claying, and then after the claying, we would have done the rubber prep and taped off to prepare for the polishing step with the machine. So we had already done that beforehand, just because it's taping can take a little bit of time, be a little obnoxious, but we did do rubber prep on all the trim around, and then we are ready to essentially start polishing the glass. So we're going to demonstrate it with both tools. In the past, my preference had been to polish with only our 3-inch machine, primarily because it spun up to such a high orbit per minute that you could really, really work fast while that machine also worked fast as well. Now the G8 is completely capable of doing that fast correction as well, but on bigger panels, it is nice to have a big machine like the G9 to do the majority of the work. The biggest difference here is that when you're working with a smaller surface area and our non-foam backed pads, conformability is one of the biggest challenges. If you've got a big machine and big pad with no conformability, going over a bowed surface or a curved surface is a little obnoxious.
Not only are you going to have half the pad contacting, but it's also going to increase the chances of product sling.
Yeah, so that is where that Interflex pad comes into play to add some conformability and some cushion, so that now both tools are equally effective. You have a little bit of cushion and it can roll over those curved panels a little bit. So we're going to demonstrate using both machines in a manner that I really like to use it, which is I use the small tool to essentially frame the space I'm going to polish, and then I come back with the big tool and do the big passes, really the overarching correction of the entire panel. So there's a couple questions coming in. I'm going to set the tool up. You want to take those on?
Yeah, real quick too, I do want to talk about the tape that we used. We mentioned earlier this is new. It actually is washi tape with an acrylic adhesive. It is UV resistant and water and solvent resistant. So it isn't going to leave that like sticky, nasty residue that you end up potentially spreading over the surface as you're trying to wipe polish later or whatever it be. And then also it's not going to stain the trim.
All right, so what I'm doing right now, I'm just getting them, both the machines prepared. With the G8, it's got a 3-inch backing plate. I put the 3-inch Interflex pad, so you can see I've got a little bit of a foam interface to give me a little give, as I mentioned. And then the actual glass polishing pad, this 3-inch pad comes in a set of 3. And on its own, it is perfectly fine to use without the Interflex pad, no question. And that is what has guided my preference in the past. With this small little pad, well, you really don't have enough surface area to feel that stalling and or surface area that Stevie referenced. But with that, you're actually got a lot of flex, and it just makes it a little bit more comfortable experience. Now, with the big tool, I also have a 6-inch Interflex pad that I can bond to it. And so I'll do the same setup.
I can open that.
And I've got 6.5-inch glass polishing pads, again, a set of 3. Now, these pads are reusable. They are rayon based, so they're pretty aggressive. You do not want to use these on a painted situation. You do not want to use them at all, because they will generate a lot more heat, and that fiber is just going to mar paint. So that is why we have taken extra precaution to tape off the areas, not only around the trim, but if you're working around paint in any specific area. For example, this rear window, it is not framed with trim. It is surrounded by paint. So we want to be sure to tape off those areas. Okay, so we've got both of our machines set up with glass polish pads and Interflex pads, and I'm going to do a little bit of polishing, so it's going to get a little noisy. I've got one 25-foot cord to power both tools. One of the best features of our new generation of tools. Same cord, different tools. We've got a tidy little detail station there. And I'm going to butter the pad with fine glass polish. Now, this is a much thinner emulsion than our thicker Boss creams or complete compound. So that being said, I'm going to do the same process of buttering the pad face like I would with any other polishing process. But I'm going to be really gentle in my initial approach because that water, it's not maybe water thin, but it is thinner. And because, oh, yep, there we go. Because we have a pad surface in this glass polishing pad that doesn't absorb as well, we do have a tendency to sling right off the bat. So I've got a nice polished or buttered surface right there. And again, I'm just going to do some framing with this little guy.
Another thing to note is because this is a water-based polish, you will see that as you're working it, it'll begin to dry out. You do want to ensure that you keep the product wet as you're working. We don't recommend going above speed 4 just so you can kind of extend the working time that you get with that product, as opposed to if you were to bump it up higher than that, you're going to dry it out quite a bit quicker.
So we prepared half of the windshield. So I am just going to frame my half of the windshield, do a couple passes of that framing, and then switch tools so you can see kind of the process that I use. Now, as I mentioned, on a big surface like a windshield, the rear windshield, I'm going to utilize both tools just for speed. On smaller panels and rear view mirrors, I'm going to utilize probably just the G8 for that, just for the sake of maneuverability and then also just squeezing that pad into a little bit tighter areas. We will show you a couple hand techniques as well. So I'm going to get going and kind of show you. I got that feather trigger on the G8 so I can really just start a little slow and then lock right in.
And this is a good time to keep in mind cord control. Make sure it's over your shoulder so it's not rubbing against the paint. And make sure that you don't have any keys in your front pocket or anything that could potentially scratch against the surface and cause damage or do harm. We did have a question about headlights with a peeling coating. That would be a great situation to use our severe kit in. Invasion HD is the one that had asked that with the coating peeling off. Let's see. I just saw a good one. Joel Parker. I've seen this question about the compatibility of glass sealant with ceramic 3-in-1 or other ceramic infused products. Ceramic 3-in-1 is such a rich formula that we actually do not recommend using that with glass sealant. You can choose one or the other, but glass sealant is actually formulated to withstand the wiper blade abrasion quite a bit better. But typically, if you were applying ceramic 3-in-1 over a glass sealant, sealed glass, I can't talk. If there's already glass sealant on the glass and you're applying ceramic 3-in-1 over it, you could see like a filmy residue. With the ceramic speed shine and the ceramic washing coat, you will not have that issue. So you can use either of those. If you get a little overspray from the ceramic speed shine on your glass, that's fine. If you're using the washing coat in a foam cannon, for example, and getting it on the glass, that's totally fine.
There's some pretty innocent jokes, but unfortunately innocent jokes aren't that funny, sorry. So again, I framed that in, just a few passes. I'll go back, and part of it too is with some of the panels, you have to acknowledge where you can force your tool or not. Forcing the tool, really just a dirty word. We're not trying to force it in there. If it's telling you by either stalling or you're just unable to get it in there, don't force it in because you could run the risk of damaging adjacent trim with that backing plate, or just running your tool into something. So you can actually come back and cut in some of those tighter areas with additional hand polishing. So we're going to focus on that. That being said, it's hard to actually see. You're not gaining any visibility on the very bottom edges, but you will have inconsistency of finish and you may see water spots down at the bottom if you don't address them by hand. So I'm gonna go back at it and get the big tool out to demonstrate it over a larger surface area. Once again, buttered the pad, and I'm gonna start slow, speed it up, and you may not be able to see this perfectly, but Stevie did mention the water-based polish will start to clarify, and so you have to be cognizant of when it's clarifying, it means that it's drying up, it's becoming less effective, and you might need to reapply if you're becoming ambitious with a really large area. So with this big tool and the amount of product that I put on this pad face, I should be able to get all of that going, no problem.
Yes, so I did see a question about when in the process should you do headlights and glass. I prefer to do headlights I prefer to do glass after the paint so that if you are touching or maybe getting product overspray a little bit or whatever it be, you're not having to go back and re-clean that. As far as headlights, I would do that after you do the paint, at least the paint surrounding. That way you can tape that paint off. It's already protected. Sorry. Trying to make sure you guys can hear me. You can tape that paint off, it's already protected, and then do the sanding or whatever process that you're doing. Stop looking at me. Yeah, let's do it after, sorry. David Barney, what happened when the frog's car broke down? It got towed away. It's a good one. Ron Shoup, when you store the clay, can you just put it back in the jar or does it need to go into a Ziploc? You can do it either way, as long as it's in an airtight environment. So I wouldn't put it in the jar with the lid off. Make sure that you screw it back closed. If you prefer to put it in a Ziploc bag, that's totally fine. Either way is great. Benji Davis, interior windows always haze after cleaning. Could it be from vaping? I think maybe my towels need to be washed. What do you guys do for that haze that is recurring so fast? There could be a couple different factors, one of them being that product residue is on the glass, that the towel maybe that you finished with wasn't completely dry. And that could be causing the streaking that you're seeing. Sometimes you won't see it in some light and you will see it in other. It could also very much be from vaping. Any smoking at all in the vehicle typically will add film. And then it could also, if it's a newer car especially, or you're using dressings on the dash, it could be off-gassing from that.
I can weigh in on this too. It is definitely vaping. Does tend to increase the film on the interior glass at a much more rapid rate. And yes, it is very difficult to get rid of. I've had to help my stepbrother. He's a heavy vapor and he vapes in his car. And it just takes multiple applications of either window cleaner or ultra premium glass cleaner. It took 3 or 4 on his windshield to finally get it all off. Whatever chemical they're using in there is more difficult.
Yeah, whatever chemical they're using in there is going in your lungs too, bud. So always think through that. But so oh wow, pulled off the Velcro right away. I did about 3 passes with the G9 over the area that I worked. Did 2 lateral passes, 1 vertical pass, just crosshatch pattern, 50-50 overlap. About 5 pounds of pressure, which is really just stabilizing the tool.
Do you want to trade up? You've been doing all that.
Sure, if you want to just, we're going to just cut in by hand on the edges of that. So really, again, this you'll see that kind of inconsistent look on the windshield is due to some of that water-based polish clarifying and drying up. It's a good indicator to kind of stop and check your work. And granted, this R32 in very good condition, not a lot of heavy water spots. So we really didn't have to attack it too aggressively. But if you are chasing water spots, you might want to do 4 or 5 passes. I think Stevie said, lower speed. I actually tend to like working at a higher speed on glass polishing because it is a less sensitive surface, but really critical to working at higher speed, you do your taping, you mind your edges. That's why framing with the smaller tool and coming back with the bigger tool is so critical. And then as Stevie is demonstrating, this hand step to get into the very tight areas is really critical, because with these random orbitals, you don't have a direct pattern. It goes off center, back and forth. And so you might have the tool, say 2 inches from the edge of the glass, and your orbital stroke only gets it to about, a 1/4 inch away from the edge. So you come back in with the hand, and as I mentioned before, you're not getting visibility there, you're just ensuring consistency of look of your glass. So it's a great way to just do this process thoroughly so you get an even surface for best adhesion. Jay Emmers asks, how do you know when the glass pad needs to be replaced? These are pretty resilient pads. You shouldn't have to replace them that frequently if you're washing. Because it's a water-based polish, they do clean up really well, and they will bow a little bit just because they're so thin after you air dry them, but they should stick right back on to the pad. But with any pad, if you start to see fraying at the edges, you start to see fibers falling apart, it's a good indicator to replace it. Usually, I can get around a car like this with probably 3 3-inch pads, but if I'm doing the big panels with a 6-inch pad, I only really need about 1 of those. So it just depends on how big the amount of glass you're using. Probably about 2 6-inch pads for like a big F350 or Suburban, but on a car this small, you might use more of the 3-inch pads and 1 of the big pads. So before you jump in there,
Yes.
explain what you're doing.
Yeah, so I just wetted the towel just with plain water, and that's just going to help pick up the residue of the fine glass polish, since it is water-based and it does tend to dry out. Sometimes it can get a little powdery during wipe-off. This will just help pick it up and keep it in the towel. And then I'm just going to go ahead and thoroughly wipe the surface. I will come in with another dry towel after this. This is just a general wipe to loosen that residue.
Yeah, so once
I probably
again,
could
that
have
water-based
used a
polish,
little more water.
due to it not containing an oil element, is going to dry up, being just a little stubborn to get off, especially after you've introduced the heat and the abrasion of that polishing process. So it's just this is a kind of time-saving trick. Use a clean towel and water. You can also, in fact, I would generally follow after this water step to remove the excess polish with a cleaning step. I prefer window cleaner for that step, just because it's about as pure as it can get. It won't leave anything behind. Whereas our foaming glass cleaner does have some surfactants that could interfere with bond. Not going to be a substantial interference, but if you have both formulas, I like foaming glass cleaner for my interior cleaning and just general exterior cleaning. In terms of proper adhesion for glass sealant, I'm going to prefer our original formula window cleaner.
I'll go ahead and do that.
Will Griot's ever come out with a product for road paint removal or any tips? Clay. Clay would be your first step for overspray for road paint removal. If it's extremely thick, claying is your first step, so that you at least clean the area surrounding the paint, and then you can introduce a solvent product. One product that is incredibly effective that I still love, even though it is sold by one of our competitors, 3M adhesive remover. We are in development of a tar, bug, and sap remover aerosol. We've actually finalized that formula, and we have ordered it. It's just a supply chain issue at this point. That would be a great product, but once again, you'd still want to try claying first. It's the least invasive method. It could, retain the wax that's on the car, but a solvent-based cleaner is most likely going to be your secondary step to dissolve and break down some of that dirt. And then paint. Lastly would be polishing. Right? If you'd get into machine polishing or hand polishing, that would definitely remove that excess paint or paint transfer. All right, so you've cleaned the entire surface. Now what?
Now we're going to apply glass sealant. and this will help repel water, protect the glass, prevent future water spots. It is going to increase your visibility significantly. Essentially, the water will just fly right off the surface. It's pretty impressive. I'd say probably 3 to 6 months of durability out of this, if I remember correctly.
And again, part of that is
dependent on how the glass is prepped. Sorry, I'm not sure where you're going with this.
It's exactly that. Sorry, I was just having a little brain fart. But,
you're fine. And then also, whether it's a daily driven vehicle or maybe something that's parked indoors or not driven as much, whether you live in a inclement weather environment like we do here, where it's constantly raining and you're using your wiper blades a lot, or maybe if you're in California and it doesn't rain as much, you're not using those wiper blades, so it's not going to abrade.
Yeah, Derek's Detailing is asking. He had some like a premature failure. I would consider what you're describing. The Velcro came off the back, so that is not ideal. You should be calling customer service and telling them about that. You should not just get a single use out of these pads. There's no question about that. We have plenty of glass polishing pads in R&D that have been used many, many times. So that would strike me as strange, and you should call us. We will take care of you.
Definitely.
So again, as Stevie mentioned, this is the last step in terms of your cleaning, claying, prepping, polishing, and now protecting with glass sealant. We've had some discussion, or there's been some discussion about the advent of ceramic 3-in-1 and ceramic speed shine, ceramic wash and coat versus glass sealant. We'll just say they don't play well together, right? If you were to have glass sealant on your window and wash with ceramic wash and coat, it's definitely not going to do any harm. But if you were to apply ceramic 3-in-1 wax on top of glass sealant, again, that's going to be a thicker emulsion. You are going to have some filminess, and quite frankly, you're not going to get any durability out of that. Just that ceramic 3-in-1 wax will wash off pretty quickly. But as it relates to speed shine and wash and coat, those are thinner. They will add polymer protection to that. It may bond and just accentuate the glass sealant, or it may do very minimal. It shouldn't be interference, but glass sealant is a great product, and you can really use it as your kind of winter prep at this point in time.
Yes, and you can clean these pads, just the same as you would your foam pads with hot water, microfiber cleaner, and I like to add a touch or two of Dawn dish soap as well. Typically, I'll let these kind of soak in the hot, a little bit soapy and a little bit microfiber cleaner water. Let them soak for 15 minutes, and then come in and massage them. That'll just help loosen up all the product, and then you're able to easily kind of massage that out, rinse it thoroughly, let it dry. Sorry.
Okay. No, so you've applied the glass sealant. You want to describe your technique and why you've stopped and what you're going to do next?
Yes. So I just used a little disposable towel here. I went ahead and thoroughly wetted the edge that I'm going to be using to apply it. And then I applied it to the glass in straight line, slightly overlapping passes. I went horizontally this time. I'm going to let the product actually set and cure. You can kind of see it begin to flash even as you're wiping. But you want to let that dry for about 15 minutes and then come back, apply a second coat. I'm going to do that perpendicular to the first coat, and then once that coat has then set and dried for 15 minutes, we will wipe both coats off.
Yeah, usually what I'll do with the glass sealant is I'll do the entire polishing process around the car, then do my first coat of glass sealant. By the time I've worked my way all the way around the car, as you mentioned, it kind of dries to a haze. That's a great indicator that, hey, it's curing pretty well, it's bonding pretty well. And a secondary coat is almost essential. And to your point, go in a perpendicular pattern to ensure even coverage mostly, right? Just to make sure you didn't miss any spots, but really just to layer it back up. She is using a lint-free glass towel. We sell those in a 50-pack. They're just expendable versus putting glass sealant into some of your nicer towels. However, a multi-purpose utility towel is also a great towel for applying glass sealant, and also removing it after it has haze to it to dry. So we are getting pretty late here. We've been here for an hour and 40 minutes. Wow. So let's talk categorically about, I have one other really important aspect to cover, but so we mentioned it, you apply glass sealant as your finishing step. You allow your first coat to haze dry and then apply a second step in the opposite direction or perpendicular direction to the first coat. After that has dried, removal tips.
Yes. So I like to use 2 separate towels and have one of them wet and one of them dry. And that'll just help kind of lift, again, kind of how we did with the fine glass polish. It'll help lift that residue, wipe it off quite a bit quicker with the wet towel, and then wipe the remaining residue off with the dry towel.
Yeah, and sometimes you can actually, if you've allowed it to bond correctly and you're finding some of it's a little stubborn, you can saturate your towel with a glass cleaner. It's not going to damage the bond if it's dried. A shop towel will be fine, Ron Shoop, and glass sealant on the shower door. Great, great place to use it. Unfortunately, you can't put glass sealant through a foam cannon. Otherwise, I'd do all the exterior windows of my house, at least the ones that are south facing, to make sure that they stay cleaner longer. It'd be a pain in the butt to do a big bay window by hand with glass sealant, but it's a really effective product. Okay, guys. Well, hey, we've had a great time here. I hope you guys have learned something. This has been pretty hands-on for us. We've covered a lot of ground. I don't know that we got to as many questions as we did. Hopefully, you had a lot of your questions answered by us, though. But if you enjoyed your time here, we really appreciate you guys tuning in. And please subscribe to the channel, throw us a thumbs up or a like on this, and hit the notification bell. We will be back in 2 weeks with a different topic. We'll take your questions and do more giveaways.
I believe next time we're going to do quite a bit more Q&A as well. So definitely bring your questions if we didn't answer them here today.
Yeah, and we're going to be doing some substantial giveaways, including an Ultimate Detailer cart loaded to the gills with product. That giveaway will begin shortly. If you did not catch the code from earlier, we do have a buy one, get one sale going on right now. We're going to put that code in the YouTube live chat. That goes on through the end of the weekend, so use that code, buy a gallon, get a 22 ounce of the same product for free. And if you're buying an expensive enough gallon, you're going to get free shipping with that as well. We really appreciate you guys tuning in with us and had a great time showing you headlight restoration and glass polishing and glass sealant. So thank you all for coming. Have fun in your garage.
Have fun in your garage.